Welcome to Organizational Sherlocks, the podcast where business meets psychology and your organizational puzzles meet their match.
Join us for captivating stories and practical solutions to unravel your toughest challenges.
I'm Dr. Elizabeth Fleming.
And I'm Morgan Ashworth, your guides to a prescription for business success.
Let's dive in. Hey, Morgan.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. How are you?
I am doing well. How was your trip?
Oh, it was lovely and wonderful and warm compared to the Minnesota snow that we have here right now. Or we did. Well, I guess we still do.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Well, I hope our listeners had a wonderful holiday season. Great New Year. Little week past now, about a week past now, or a little under maybe. And so we're really excited to get going and talk about how we're going to start our years off right in the organizational development sphere, the business strategist sphere.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, authenticity has been a big part of our first kind of season, if you will, in 2024. And so it makes sense that we kind of hit it off and talk about authenticity and all of that right away in 2025.
Yeah, welcome to season 2, everyone. So authenticity, as you've known, we've talked about it on and on. We've talked about alignment. We started last season in early 2024 talking about missions, visions, values, and the like. And so now we want to talk about, how are we starting our year off right? Does it entail any of that? And what trends are we expecting to see in 2025 within the organizational development industry?
Yeah, no, I think there's probably some pretty good ones. I mean, I think with all, I don't know about you, Morgan, but for me, I think there's always a little bit of uncertainty of what's to come. It's fresh, it's new. People are just coming off of that rejuvenation period, as I would like to call it, kind of being hopefully at home and with some family, friends, loved ones. But yeah, like kind of refocusing our energy, I think, and getting back into it without really knowing what does 2025 have in store.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's important to ask the question, is authenticity part of your business plan or part of your plan in general? It doesn't have to be a business plan. It can be your personal plan as a working individual. And if you can apply authenticity to your plan, you're more likely going to be able to reconnect with your values consistently throughout the year. And so that rejuvenation you got over the holiday season, it's going to continue through time. It's really important to reassess and to go back to your values to kind of remotivate yourself throughout the year. And it's going to be a good burnout prevention as well. So, self-improvement should always be a part of everyone's plan. I know it's part of mine. I'm sure it's part of yours, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think, what's kind of hitting me right now too is, as a part of the authenticity, maybe like a sub part of it, or even maybe the, kind of on the same levels. I think there's a level of like humility that we have to bring to the table. I think that helps us be more authentic because we can kind of say like, hey, these are my plans, right? And like, I know that they may have to flex a little bit. And so I think for me, like that's a big thing is, being willing to flex a little bit more when needed, especially if it's, something that would be beneficial for the people around me. That's one thing that I want to do. I mean, I like to think that I thrive on change, but realistically, I probably have some control issues, which Morgan knows about. I like things to be, good and right. But there is a time when having some of that humility and all of that is really important. And so that's something I'm focusing on in 2025.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that self-improvement is something that is a trend for the organizational development sphere. Self-improvement, mentorship. We've talked about mentorship in the past. We've talked about, values. We've talked about your personal life mission versus the company's mission, making sure you find alignment within that. But self-improvement truly is going to be one of the trends we see in 2025. Executives are looking more and more for their own coach. They want to make sure that they're improving themselves as they improve the company. And I know for me, mentors are going to be assigned throughout our organization in 2025. And so even if, whether it be organizational driven self-improvement or self-driven self-improvement, it's going to be a trend we really do see gain some traction this year.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I had done a presentation for a coaching organization a while back, and we were talking about different trends, in particular around coaching. And one of the statistics that are out there, I can't remember, I think it might have been Gallup that did the study or the survey. And they talked about, I'm going to get the number wrong, so I'm just going to like throw a blanket statement out there and then we can post the real one later. But they were talking about how, particularly with kind of like the influx of kind of younger generations taking on more leadership roles now, and kind of some of that transitioning of, maybe our baby boomers kind of maybe exiting the workforce and that kind of stuff, that there is this kind of drive for people to, like rather work with coaches, external coaches, than to really work on that development as deeply with, say, a manager or a supervisor. And so I think that is interesting and a trend that we're going to see our companies investing in that, because it's what is going to be the quickest development and maybe even a more fruitful development, because it's what the person prefers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an individualization, can't speak, to learning and development. It's really specific, honing in on that individual. I had individuals in late 2024 start particular coaching. We have invested into it thanks to the PEO we work with at Insperity. And so they help us. They have coaches that work with our leaders and kind of upscale them to the next level. Speaking of upskilling, that's going to be a trend that we see as well, is organizations planning to fill their gaps on what skills are needed to continue growing those organizations, and really trying to push people to self-learn, self-teach. And one way to self-teach would be yet another trend, microlearning. Elizabeth, do you know what microlearning is?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I think, right, like just like taking bits of information at a time, and eventually you gain more knowledge, right? Like reading a chapter in a book at a time. Is that a good analogy? Reading a chapter in a book and then eventually you've read the whole book?
Yeah, exactly as it sounds. It's about learning in little pieces. I've always talked about being a sponge of knowledge. And so in that, micro learning really allows you to pull everything and anything you can to utilize later at a different point in time. So I know, signing up for newsletters and reading like an article a day, reading a chapter a day, even being subscribed to different learning channels, ours being one of them. We're helping you guys micro learn as we discuss these topics and we discuss them with other individuals. So we're micro learning while you're micro learning with us. And so it's just little bits of information that you get consistently over time, and you can attach it, that subconscious mind, that creative thought process should be working overtime in the end, to then allow you to bring that into conscious thought for problem solving, decision making down the road.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but one of my favorite things, I call them like epiphany moments, where it's like I read something or I listened to something and it really like stood out to me, but it's not something I think about all the time. And then I like come into a situation and it's like, poof, there it is. Like, this is the thing that I was learning about, and it's happening in real life. And it's like having that context, I think is really cool. I don't know if that happens to you, but it does for me every once in a while.
Oh, certainly does. And, we read all sorts of theories in our research within psychology. And so because of that, we're constantly finding, okay, this is where this theory applies. You can actually see it happening in real time. Yeah. And same thing, like you can learn different psychological constructs that apply to the workplace. And I do teach my leaders them, and they start to pull them in real life. They're like, wait, this is an example of this. This is an example of this. For example, like situational leadership theory, the dictate, coach, support, delegate. I call it the DCSD method with my leaders, and they know what I'm talking about. I'm like, if you're training, you better use that DCSD method. They don't know what a situational leadership theory, but that's how they know it, because we talk about it consistently over time. But they get little micro learnings about it. I send reminders about it, just to keep them kind of on the ball.
Right.
But there's definitely a lot to learn come this year. There's a lot of new trends in the workplace. We've seen exponential change in the last 4 or 5 years, with the pandemic within the workplace. And
Right.
because of that, we also see the differences in how many people are working, in what people are doing, what industries people are working in. We see more and more people going into the white collar space, or entrepreneurs as well.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs. Yeah.
With more entrepreneurs comes less people looking to work in an organization as well. And that makes it so that the organization needs to find something else to fill those gaps. It's not a person. I don't know if you know what I'm getting to here, Elizabeth.
Possibly. Or maybe a robot or
A
AI.
robot or software or something.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah.
Um,
No, I
so
mean, I
AI,
think that there's
AI
sorry,
and
go ahead.
automation is kind of what I was getting to there. So AI and automation is really important, and robots work through AI a lot of the times, or they have automated programming. But then separate from that, AI is speeding up work tenfold. I know I'm doing research on AI and marketing, and there's like a content manager and content creator that just does all of it. I haven't played with it yet, but I plan to see
I
what it's
have.
going to come up with.
I
Yeah.
have. It's pretty cool. Sometimes I will be honest, it comes up with some really weird stuff, just so you know. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this at all. Like, it's not what I'm envisioning. But there are times where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought about, displaying it that way, or thinking about it in that way. So, it's brings up, and I think this is probably a podcast episode on its own, but it brings up kind of a conversation I had with my students about critical thinking, and how with the kind of introduction of AI and it being more mainstream in our world, in the work, in our education, all of it, like how we're going to have to teach critical thinking differently to children so that when they're older, because I mean, but going back to, I know I alluded to it probably in a million other episodes, but like information wasn't always at our fingertips the way it is today. I mean, I remember dial-up internet, right? Like it was a lot harder to get information when you needed it. And so thinking about that, I think it's less about like having the information. Like you have all the information, now you just got to dig through it, and you have to critically think about it. And so anyway, I think that's probably, maybe we can put that on the docket for another episode. Because I do think it has a line to the workplace,
No,
and
I
how
totally
people
agree. I say that I feel like people have a lower threshold for deeper cognition than they used to, and that's because information's at our fingertips. But that's something we'll have to get into, and I think that ties right in line with the trends of learning and development. It's about reskilling and upskilling, specifically in soft skills like deep think, creative thinking, of some sort, critical thinking, obviously. Also problem solving, decision making, yada yada. We can keep naming all these soft skills. But there is so much coming in 2025, from the learning and development sphere changing to the AI and automation area coming up and affecting the workplace. And then I know that, DE&I, there's this, and the political trends as well, not that they go together necessarily, but those are additional ones that we'll likely be talking about. I know like pay transparency in the political world, that's being instituted or plans to be instituted in 5 additional states this year, including where I work in Massachusetts. And so, we've been preparing for it all year. I consider myself a tomorrowist in the HR sphere, and I love it. SHRM, the Society of HR Management, actually named that. They started their tomorrowist newsletter a few months ago, and I was like, that is how I work. I'm always planning for the future. I'm always trying to determine what is going to come based off of the trends I see elsewhere. And so we want to know what trends are you guys seeing? What do you want to learn about this year as well? Because we're learning with you, and we would also like to be able to teach you. So email us, comment. We're going to post asking what you guys want to learn about, and so that we can put that into our schedule. There are a billion different trends we could talk about, but which ones do you want us to get into the nitty-gritty about?
Absolutely. And I'd say too that, we're trying to be a little bit more present on social media. So if you haven't checked out our Instagram or Facebook, please do and follow us, because we're throwing up some nuggets every day or every other day, usually, to share with you all. So please do that, and don't forget to comment, because we want to hear from you.
Yeah, but we'll speak with you all soon. I'm really excited. We're going to delve into a couple of the trends in the coming month. And so just keep an eye out for that. I'm really looking forward to a couple conversations that kind of surround DE&I, sustainability. We see sustainability becoming more and more important to organizations. So keep your eye out. If those are topics of interest, you definitely should learn. And, we have one guest, Omri Johnson, coming on, and he has such a comprehensive view of DE&I, and it's going to change your minds, I think, a little bit.
I think so too. Yeah, I think it'll be a great conversation. I'm excited to have him on. So, well, let's wrap it up for today. That works. All right.
Of course, yeah.
Well, everyone, this concludes another intriguing episode of Organizational Sherlocks. I'm Elizabeth Fleming.
And I'm Morgan Ashworth, reminding you that the journey to success is an ongoing investigation.
Stay curious, stay strategic, and keep utilizing insights to decode your business mysteries.
Join us every Tuesday for your next Whodunit. This is Organizational Sherlocks, closing today's case.
See you next time.